If you think of your favorite author, then chances are they haven't actually written that many books. George Orwell wrote 9, Dan Brown's written 7, Malcolm Gladwell's written 7. Meanwhile, Stephen King has written, as of today, 70 books. Now, how is this possible? Part of it is that Stephen King's super old and he's been writing his entire life, right? Like, he's 70, he's been writing since he was in high school and publishing stuff since he was in his mid-20s. So he's had a lot of time to put books out, but he also produces stuff way faster than the average author, right? He's putting out 2, sometimes 3 books a year. Most authors are like maybe 1 book every 3 years if they're lucky. And the reason he can do that is because he treats writing like a job. Every morning he gets up and he sits at his typewriter and he writes 1,000 words of whatever he's working on. One of his books is kind of his memoirs of his life as a writer. It's called On Writing, and it's also full of a bunch of helpful advice for writers. And you can kind of tell that he has this, writing is a job attitude by some of the metaphors he uses, right? He talks about, your writer's toolbox and all the ways that you write. It's your toolbox. The way he puts it is, this isn't the Ouija board or the spirit world we're talking about here. This is just another job like laying pipe or driving long-haul trucks. So if writing is just another job, then where does creativity come in, right? Because we typically think of, if you're at your job, you're just doing what your boss tells you to do, you're not really thinking, you're just kind of executing. Whereas writing is very much like you have to come up with something interesting, and you have to say something interesting. Plus, our stereotypes of writers are very much that they're not super professional, super disciplined people, right? Like if you think of the platonic ideal of a writer, Ernest Hemingway, like that dude was fucked up. Part of Stephen King's life has been about balancing these two forces, the creativity and the professionalism, which can go together, but it's really hard. The biggest example of this is when Stephen King quit drinking, right? So many authors, like Ernest Hemingway is the classic example. They're drunks and they're alcoholics and they can't stop drinking and they're like, oh, this is part of my creative process. I have to drink in order to write good. And Stephen King thought this way. He was like, no, I can't quit drinking because then I won't be able to write good anymore. But eventually he realized that he was just going to kill himself if he didn't stop drinking. And so he had to give up his career as a writer. Fine. So he stopped drinking and it turned out that his writing didn't suffer at all. Obviously, if you're creative, you have to be able to think differently and you have to be able to get a little weird. But that doesn't mean that you can't get your shit taken care of. The way he puts it is, if stone sober people can fuck like they're out of their minds, and actually be out of their minds while they're in the throw, then why can't writers go bonkers and still stay sane? Stephen King says that if you want to be a writer, the first thing you got to do is start reading. Stephen King reads 80 books a year, and if you don't read a lot of books, then you don't understand books and you can't write them that well. And he doubles down on that by including this giant list in the back of the book of 100 novels that he had read over the past few years that he's like, oh, these are really good books, you should read these. The next step is to start writing. Set a goal for yourself of 1,000, 2,000 words a day, or whatever you feel like you can manage, and just write that many words. Don't worry about stuff like writer's block or not having any ideas. Just sit down to write, and the ideas will come. So what should you write about? Well, Stephen King says that you shouldn't worry about what the market wants or what you think will sell well. Just write the book that you want to write. And if it's good, then people will read it, even if it's not really about the thing that they want to read about. For example, John Grisham used to be a lawyer, so he writes novels about lawyers. And nobody else writes novels about lawyers. There weren't any novels about lawyers that were selling well before John Grisham came along, but John Grisham's novels are good enough that he can sell them. The thing about writing is that if you don't know what you're talking about, people can tell. So write about something that you know what you're talking about. So now that you're reading and you're writing every day, it's time to try and get published. And that's really hard. You have to submit stuff to publishers and you're going to get rejected over and over again because you don't have a name brand yet. They don't know if they can sell something that you write. And that's okay. Just keep going. It takes a lot of authors years to break into the writing business, including Stephen King. When his first novel came out, he was teaching high school, and he was writing on the side, submitting his short stories to Playboy and Hustler and all these other, cheap porno mags, hoping to make $50 getting published in one of those. The important thing is to constantly keep getting better and never give up. So thanks so much for checking out Theo's Book Club. If you're new here, my name's Theo. I make short videos like this one going over the big ideas in the books that I read, so that you can learn everything that I learned and so you can decide, do I want to read this book for myself? If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll hit the thumbs up button. It's right down there. That tells YouTube, hey, this is a good video. We should recommend it to more people in our algorithm. You can also hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of these book review videos pop up in your feed. If you want to check out another video that I did about a book about writing, then you should check out my video on Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, which is about how creativity is a battle, it's you versus the blank page, and writer's block is a form of fear, and to make art is to get over that fear. So it's a super interesting book, and you can check out the video. I'll leave it right here. And until next time, I hope you go write something really cool, and have a great day.